So excited to welcome you back for another great episode. But before we get started, as usual, we're going to ground ourselves. So wherever you're at, whether you are in a car, please don't close your eyes down again, and close your eyes down. Let's settle our bodies into the space, into a space of learning. So let's settle our eyes down. Let's take a nice big inhale in through the nose. And then exhale, this time out of our mouth. We usually exhale out of our nose, but today we're going to exhale out of our mouth. We're going to do 3 breaths just like that and make them long. And then begin to count in your mind as you inhale. Inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then hold at the top, and then exhale out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I will not count anymore and let you count on your own. Just take those nice fluid inhales in and out, and feel the belly fill up with air, and then even feel a slight pull in of the belly button. And as you begin to notice your seat, where you're seated, where your feet are, maybe even grounded into the earth, maybe you're on a bed, maybe you're at work, wherever you're at, just begin to settle the body down. Begin to notice how these breaths bring you maybe a little bit of peace, maybe a little calm. And as I was preparing to talk through this topic and to invite this guest to come, I started to think about authenticity. And I started to think what that word even means for us. And I stumbled across this beautiful quote by Brené Brown. It says, "Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are." And part of today will call on us to possibly sit with some discomfort. It may also call on us to let go of rigidity and everything that we have been taught, to hide behind shame and the unknown. So today, our hope is that there will be a sense of liberation within ourself, that there will be a settling in for many women, that we will be educated a little bit more, that some of us, young, middle-aged, maybe even older, can even just learn a little bit, can learn to let go a little bit more. So what would that feel like in your body? What would a little bit of liberation feel like? How would that settle in your body? What would that feel like within your bones? What would the feeling of being known and that you're not alone feel like? Maybe imagine that as a color. And imagine that color settling right within our belly. A lot of times, especially as women, we feel lots of different things within our gut. And so today, what would that feel like? What would that liberation feel like? What would that sense of not having to have shame anymore and letting go of that feel like? And today, I invite us to begin and to continue even maybe this process of practice, of letting go, of receiving and embracing. Hopefully one of those words resonates with you. Begin to deepen your inhales and exhales again. Feeling that calm return back. Maybe there's even a sense of resolve, sense of anticipation as you get ready to listen. Take one more breath in. We'll exhale it all out. And blink your eyes open. Yay, we've arrived. We're here. I love that. I'm going to read that quote one more time. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. And with that, I welcome you, Stephanie. I am so happy that you are here with us. You are a wife of 20 years to Matthew, a mom to Sarah, 18, and Hannah, 16. And you have left the educational system, both public and private schools that you taught in over 20 years, and to do something very different, which we're going to hear in a couple of minutes. And that's why I even titled this The Detour, because there was a major detour. So I love that in people's stories is releasing and relinquishing, and that's just so great. So your latest projects is workshops offering that are titled Women Supporting Women Through Menopause, and offering answers to what is happening and why, and our how to stay empowered through these changes, and really embracing power and peace. And so I'm so happy to welcome you here in this space.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It's good to be here.
And it's really funny because I met Stephanie through Empower Yoga, and it was this very random thing. I hurt my back, and she willingly like subbed my class that she was like not normally subs this type of class, and she did it, and I was like trying to get up out of my seat as she came in, and I met her, and I was like, I don't know what happened. It just clicked, and then we sat down for coffee, and we had such an amazing conversation. And it was funny because my daughter was there, and she was like, Mom, like, you guys, like, really connected. And I was like, I know. It's so weird. It was such a cool, like, meet cute. I was like, is that what they call it? Like, meet cute. Yeah, that was really cool. So I'm really glad that you're here. And I'm really excited to talk about, like, all these cool things. And so I know that I introduced you, and I also introduced this kind of topic of like liberation for women. And could you just expand a little bit more on just your story, where you've come from, and yeah, just give us a little synopsis.
Great, thank you. So I've been a woman for 50 years of my life. Thought I understood my body, and at 50 things changed, which is what led me to the interest in my subject of perimenopause, what it looks like, and what can I do, because there's things that are happening inside my body that I feel like I have no control over, and nothing else has changed except my insides, right? I've had experience with having to change things in my life. I mean, like you mentioned, I was a educator. I was in teaching, and it wasn't just that. Like, I know I was born to teach. I've taught in like vacation Bible school. I've taught at, all kinds of different avenues. I love to teach. I love to learn. I am a lifelong learner, 100%.
And what grade were you teaching when you?
I've taught when the last 9 years that I was teaching, I was in a 4th grade, and truly, 4th grade, my favorite. Like, they're the best. They're awesome. Yeah. They're super awesome. But the place that I was at is where my kids were at. And the problem was, at the school that I was teaching at, my youngest daughter was being bullied, and there was nothing that was being done. I mean, and she would just bawl, Mommy, please don't make me go here. And it broke my heart. And I'm committed to this place, right? So a couple years before all of this had happened, God, my higher power, put it in my heart to go after something I was scared to do, which was learn. Like, I already knew how to do Pilates, but teach. I was totally good being around children, right? Love teaching kids. They don't threaten me. Adults, you guys freak me out a little bit, or at least used to freak me out a lot more. So I pursued it. It was hard, brains get kind of hard and solid when you're trying to learn things as you get older. So it wasn't easy to get my certification. And I started practicing. I would do Pilates at the park on Saturdays and loved it. Like, such a great community, such people. I was also at the age where my kids were getting older, and I didn't really have my mommy friends as much, because they were developing their own selfness. And I'm like, I want friends. Like, friends had moved away. I was like in a desert, really. And those are my prayers, I want more friends. I need all these changes. In the meantime, my daughter's going through this thing at school. Finally, we said, screw it. Halfway through the school year, we yanked her out of school. We put her in the local public school. So February, she started she was going for that period of time, very short period of time. And during that time, I got my letter. Do you plan to come back? And I said, no, thank you. I don't plan to come back teaching. I'm going to try Pilates instead. And then a week later, COVID hit. So I still had to finish out the year,
yeah.
of teaching, but I knew
Yeah.
I didn't have to go back.
Yeah.
It was great.
What a feeling that must have been.
I have never in my life felt a moment where I knew that God had a plan for me.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew he prepared me for it 2 years before all of it happened, in all the wreckage, and it wasn't easy, and there continued to be years of wreckage after that to manage the consequences of all that. But in the meantime, we got, I walked away from what I was doing and started something new. It was scary, it was uncomfortable, and it was the best thing. It was the best thing for my family, for my husband, for myself, for my children. I mean, I get to spend every day in self-care.
Yeah.
And that was really not one of my top priorities.
Yeah.
Being a mom,
Right.
rarely do you stumble on self-care, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's how I end up here in Pilates. And then obviously, as I get hungry to learn more, I got
Yeah.
comfortable. What do I do when I get comfortable? I go find something else to do. So I turned
Now,
50.
what brought you to Pilates specifically over everything else?
Because I always loved it. I loved it. I was a gymnast when I was a kid. And Pilates truly not that it doesn't speak, it's a language in the body truly. And I think that it's not just for these specific groups of people, but gymnasts, swimmers, dancers. There's certain body
totally
types
see
and
that.
body awareness and movement
Yeah.
that bleeds perfectly into Pilates.
Yeah.
And that was me.
Yeah.
So it's just a really easy way for me to take care of my body. I was also starting to get a little older where throwing heavy weights around and, doing the heavy ropes and stuff like that wasn't serving me as much because I was still too ego driven. And it got me to back out of my ego workout and into just alignment, strength, flexibility, lengthening out everything in my body. So it was less prone to injury.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So tell me what excited you most. I'll ask the resistance question after because I like using the positive one first.
Yeah, good.
What were you most excited about, taking such a big detour? Because that's big. For most people, that would be a really hard decision. What I'm hearing is that it was almost like a weight was lifted off of your shoulders. But what was most exciting about maybe taking, although you were doing something very similar, to just take that leap of faith to walk out of something that you've known for so long to go into something that you were just beginning?
Well, I use this quote often, and it's from scripture, and it's that God will make beauty of ashes. And truly, I was ashes where I was at. It was so hard. It was such a broken time that to be able to walk away from it and have something set up for me, it was just natural. I didn't see it, and I knew. I still have my teaching credential. I can go back and teach.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with teaching. I don't have a problem with being around kids. Really, my first year out of the classroom when I was just doing Pilates, I was also tutoring because there was a lot of people who said, well, we still want you in our lives. And I needed that transition time because I missed kids.
Yeah.
So I know that I can go back to it.
Yeah.
So it's not a forever decision.
Yeah.
Kind of hope it is, but I don't need it to be right. So I knew that it was an open door policy, which helped. So the excitement was that I just got to do something different, and I was completely supported. That was the biggest thing, is that, my husband is a great man. None of us are perfect, but he's a great man. And he just said, he's like, if you can go to work and be happy, I want that for you.
Yeah. Oh.
And at the time, he hated his job. And he's like, if both of us have to hate our jobs, bummer. But if I have to hate my job and you can love your job, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So that was
That's
awesome.
so cool.
Yeah.
That must have felt so liberating in that, you had that support.
Yeah. And he knew that I couldn't stay.
Yeah.
He was hurt.
Yeah, because when you see somebody that you love suffering in something, you want to do everything you can to relieve them.
Yeah.
So
it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Truly.
Was there any resistance that you felt or experienced?
I had to do everything new. You know, I mean, I was dealing with adults.
Yeah.
I had to create a Google page. I started Instagram videos and like had to look at myself talking, and oh, it was awful.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
feel that. I
No, it
feel
was
like that. Every
all
time I'm
very.
like, is there a filter for this? Like, can we put a filter on this face? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, there was just there was that, right? It was
Yeah.
the unknown. Always the fear of the unknown
Yeah.
is my. I'm sure I'm not unique in that, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
a very hard thing to overcome.
It
That
is, and there's
fear.
just so many different things out there from when you like became a teacher. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even though like you learned a lot of things to support you as a teacher, you're totally taking on a
Yeah.
completely different like
Everything.
everything. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit, kind of transition into some of the things that we're wanting to focus on. And one of the reasons that when we were talking and chatting, having coffee, I really felt this connection to, and it's so interesting because during this time of my life, a lot of people have come into my life that their bodies are changing. They're talking about menopause, they're talking about all these things. And when I became a yoga instructor in my training, they talked a lot about this as well, is that our body is not the same today as it was yesterday. It will not be the same tomorrow. And so to be gentle with it, to understand it, that mind body connection, which we'll get into. But I really want to talk about these kind of taboo topics that we don't talk about, that as women maybe of a certain generation, and I would say probably our generation, our moms did not talk about this. I remember feeling like I have things coming out of my vagina that I don't even know are supposed to be there. Nobody's telling me what's going on.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling so like, even like talking about that right now, I'm like sweating just
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because
we were taught embarrassment
Yes.
and shame and
And
hide
shame.
and keep it a secret.
Yes. And
Yeah.
even I remember my mom, sorry, Mom, I hope when you listen to this, she bought, or she didn't buy. We got a book. She probably doesn't remember. I remember. We got a book from the library, and it was about how your body changes. And I hid that book. And it's still missing at the Diamond Bar Library because I don't have any more, but I had it because I hid it and I wanted, because I was so interested in what was going on with my body, what was happening, and nobody was talking about this stuff.
And she was probably happy that you were having someone else tell you, because she probably didn't even want to tell you.
Exactly. And I
Yes.
feel that way sometimes about my daughter. When she asks me questions, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to sweat, you
Yeah,
know?
no.
Like she's asking me these interesting things, but then it's almost like, why? You know, why do we feel like that? Why do we need to feel that shame about the very vessel that we've been given to navigate through life? And all of these changes are really beautiful, even though they don't feel like it in the moment, but they are for a purpose. And, you know, so anyhow, one of the things that we had talked about is just about learning about the female body and being prepared for these changes. So, you know, one of the things you said is, we all know it's coming. So what do we do? So like maybe, you know, in our 20s, what does it look like in our 20s? What does it look like in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s and beyond?
Right. Well, I think that previously you said, you know, why is it that we react and why do we respond that way? Well, it's because we got our information from our moms, and their moms got fed shame and concern and secret also. I think what's lovely, there's twofold about doing things different. I've noticed with raising my children is that I've done it very different. You know, I've leaned in. I've shared deep, dark, dirty secrets with my kids without giving them too much information. But if they ask me, I'm very honest with them. Whereas my mom said, I wouldn't have never talked about these things with you because I felt I was giving you permission to do these things. And I get it. And I get it.
Yeah.
I totally have that little bit inside of me that says, I don't want to condone this behavior.
Yeah.
But I also take away their opportunity to learn from me if I'm not honest about it, right? So it puts me in a vulnerable position as a mom, but I've seen it working. I see my kids come to me. I've seen them talk to me. I've seen them be honest. I've seen them get through hard stuff because they knew that they had me. So that's panned out, thank goodness, you know? But I think when And the benefit to that is that our kids, I mean, I have 2 daughters, and my daughters will, I mean, maybe not one of them, but the other one, I mean, she'll pull her tampon out and she'll walk to the bathroom like it's, public knowledge. And,
Right.
and she has she gives
Yeah.
zero shits about what people think about her.
Yeah.
And I think part of it has been growth, like Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. I hope that you know more than I know one day. This is what this is what our parents wanted for us also,
Yes.
right? So, yeah, I mean.
And I think it's almost this, I just thought about this right now, but I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Red Tent.
No, I have it at my house, though, because my friend told me about it.
Read it.
Yes.
So it's almost like we have to recreate the red tent in a different way. And the red tent had it had its purpose, because its purpose was, it created community, even though it was under, obviously under a lot of rejection and shame and all that. It had its purpose. It created community. And I feel like we need to redefine the red tent as like that as women, the red tent has to be more than just like, it has to be a communal space that everybody can come and really talk about these really hard things.
Yeah, we're in it together. We are all in this together. And there can be a very knowledgeable male doctor whose body is not going to go through this and doesn't go through this every single day. Our hormone levels change every single day until we're postmenopause, right? If our bodies are going through these changes every day and nothing but another woman understands that, then why aren't we talking to each other?
Right.
We have to lean on each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the redefined red tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah.
It's great. I like it here.
I know. It's great. So let's talk a little bit about like those changes for like, the female body, and how do we embrace those changes? Know that they're significant, but that there's also like, there's hope. There's things like, what have you learned? What have you gleaned from, the years of that transformation?
I think most of what, like, you can only know what you know when you're ready to know, So, I mean, I don't think that me embracing this when I was 20 years old, I personally wouldn't have been ready to take this on, because it's like reading a book about how to get your kid to sleep through the night. Exactly. You got to figure it out,
Exactly.
It's not going to come from a book. But I think the things that I've realized mostly through this is that it's not hopeless. Like, if I wasn't ambitiously going after information, and if it weren't for the fact that I'm in a time where other women, other doctors are also pursuing the information, and that's new. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I couldn't have been excited and hungry for this, because there would have been no information available to me.
Yeah, so true.
That I think that just the curiosity is what's giving me hope, because I know what changes are happening in my body. I know that estrogen is being manufactured in my fat cells. Did you know that? I just found that out. That's why, as we are no longer producing as much estrogen, our body's craving more fat cells, because it's like, I'm running out of estrogen. Where do I find more? In fat cells. So how do I manage that? And it's all going to be through nutrition. It's going to be through exercise, doing things differently. So we know that estrogen is manufactured in fat cells. So as our body is creating less estrogen and we're able to pull less estrogen out, our body knows it's in a deplete. It wants to get more estrogen. It knows it's getting it from fat cells. So we start to pack on some more fat. So what are ways that we can manage that? We manage it through nutrition. We manage it through certain types of exercises. So we need different stressors on the body that might be different. I mean, like I said, I've been doing Pilates for a long time. I do Pilates hours and hours and hours every day. I love it. But my body's changing.
Yeah.
Like, I have to do something different. I actually have to carve out time to go do my own thing, because turns out 6 hours of Pilates every day is not good for me.
Yeah.
So
so it's figuring out the things that are good for you, and that's like an exploration of ourselves, I think, and that's even like what we were just talking about this Rose and I. It's like, I could put out all of this stuff about mindfulness and how to take care of yourself and not take care of myself. And so it's like,
or forget how to have to go back to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's this return back. It's like a constant return back to the self and what's good. And every milestone in your life or season in your life is going to be different and calls on something different.
Well, and the beauty of this time, of this change in my body, is it is literally begging me to find out what's going on with me. Like, I've spent my whole, maybe not my whole life, but the bulk of the last 20 something years focused on other people. And I believe that that was what I was called to do. I willingly did it. It was very important. Everyone that I gave it to needed it, but they don't need it anymore. You know, what am I called to do right now? I'm called to lean into myself. I'm tracking my cycles. I mean, thank goodness I started. Anyone who doesn't track their cycles, track your cycles. If you're bleeding regularly or irregularly, track your cycles. Do it, do it, do it. Because one of these days when you start to get kind of funky in that area, it's going to help you so much to determine whether you're estrogen high, progesterone low. There's so much to be done. Even so, hormone testing, really important to find out where your hormones are out, right? I went and got my hormones tested, and I got some like nursing assistant, no offense, but he knew nothing about anything. And he said, unless it's highlighted in red, you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, well, you did a hormone panel, and I looked at my app, and I'm like, I was on day 25 of my cycle. What should those levels be? He's like, I don't know. If it's not in red, you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, no one who drew my blood asked me what day of my cycle I was in. I know that they're just throwing numbers out. I went and I looked, saw what my numbers were, and all of those were pretty on par, thank goodness. But I know that the older I get, every day that passes, I'm not going to get better in my cycles. My body's changing, so I want to track it. But I did find out that I was low in testosterone. Well, what do you do about that? He didn't tell me it was in red, but I could tell that I had brain fog, I had low libido, I had all these indications of low testosterone. Started taking DHEA, which is a supplement, precursor for it. I feel so amazing. Like, it made such a difference, that little thing. And I love doctors. They have their place. None of them have served me face to face, but finding information online. Finding doctors online. Women, I'm telling you, these women are amazing. Find a woman who wants to find the answers, and you'll find them now.
I mean, there are some. I haven't quite found somebody yet to deal with my thyroid. They just want to give me Synthroid, and I'm just like, I think there's other ways. So I think what I'm hearing too is curiosity. Be curious, be diligent, be, willing to maybe dig a little bit.
Yes. Be curious enough, because you could be curious and leave it at that. But if you're curious enough, you're going to act on it.
For sure. And I think you're right. Like, when you're in your 20s, you don't like really think about, oh, well, when I'm in my late 40s, but it's not that far off.
No.
It's not that far off. It's really close. And I used to say that all the time. Oh, I'm fine. And I really never, I didn't listen to the things that were changing. So when they changed, I was like, shocked. Oh, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling like this? Well, because I'm thinking those years are really far off, but my body is constantly changing and constantly edging towards that end, towards there. And so, that's, I think, even if you're 20, listen up, 20-year-olds.
Be curious enough to pay attention.
To when your body is shifting, when you feel those.
Well, and now there's
shifts.
even looking at your workouts, like cycling your workouts, knowing that right at the beginning, I mean, there's always circumstances. If you got heavy cramps, you're not going to want to hit your workout hard. But literally, like, from days 1 to 12, you're at your estrogen heavy. That's when you're like, balls out. I'm going to get it, go hard, fear not. And then you start to get, after you go into that bump of ovulation, you get progesterone starts to get heavy. Your body's a little bit more tentative. It wants to make sure it's protecting this fertilized egg. So you're a little bit more cautious. You're a little bit less apt to go crazy. Use that to your advantage. I mean, now these Olympic coaches are using that with their female athletes. Where are you at in your cycle? That's a big deal right now with how I train you.
So like in that 20, 30, well, actually any age.
If you're cycling, you should be using your hormones to your advantage. Track.
Yeah.
Track your periods.
All right. So now we're going to go on to, I mean, we're probably going to have to do this again, Stephanie, because there's no way that we're going to get everything in here.
That was my workshop. My workshop was going to be one day, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to make 2 days out of this.
I know.
There's a lot to talk about.
It is. So second, we were going to talk about nutrition and exercise, which this is a great segue into that. And as you get older, so how would you say that, like, if we're spanning the 20s, 30s, and 40s, how it gets different? You touch a little bit on, like maybe in their 20s and 30s, where you're kind of using those numbers to your advantage, and especially if you're cycling regularly, I should say, not normal, but regularly. How does exercise change, like, as you get older? Or how have you experienced that?
Well, personally, exercise changed for me. I became much more in my head about mindfulness and mindful movement. So I am not one who's going to go do things crazy now. I'm a cautious person. So when I used
Were you always like that?
Kind of, sort of, but I mean, I went kind of a little bit more, I wouldn't say wild, but I was a little bit more daring when I was probably in my 20s and 30s. Post kids, forget about it. I just walked around in fear of everything, right? But I like, now I wouldn't go, like you had shared that you were going to go snowboarding with your daughter, and I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to get on a snowboard because I don't want to break something. Like, my job depends on my ability to move and not break something.
I know.
And I treasure my body so much that even though it might be fun, it's not worth it for me. But I'm a very cautious person by nature.
Let me tell you though, my snowboarding is I stay on the trail. There is no off. There are times where my ego is like, you could totally go and play over there. And I'm like, no, you can't. Because exactly that. Like, you're going to break something, you're going to hurt something. So,
which is why I love Pilates. I mean, it's literally rehabilitative work that you work your ass off at. I mean, it can be so hard. Yeah. But no one's going to hurt themselves. Yeah. I will not let anyone, oh gosh, knock wood. I won't let anyone hurt themselves in my class because there's modifications, there's explanation for everything, and it's all about getting stronger. It's not about pushing yourself to a place where there's going to be an ache or a hurt and if you do get an ache or a hurt, then we'll switch it up for you. Yeah. Like, I'll find something for you. There's no abandon. We just modify. Yeah.
That's what I love about, like, anything pretty much everything that's taught in yoga and in Pilates. It's all like mind-body connection. It's
mind-body
connection.
Yeah.
What do I feel like today? If I don't want to do a vinyasa flow, why do I just push back into downward facing dog? Yeah. There's no, like, there's
the ego part of it. And that's what I tell my students too, is that I used to be in the ego part of my exercise. I don't even let my ego into the equation. And when it does pop in, I go, I see you. I see you, and you don't have any rights here. Yeah. Because it's worked for me. Yeah. So it's trial and error. It's learning to trust yourself and your movement and your body.
I think, like you said, like in your 20s, like, especially different times in your cycle, like, go all out. Like, do it. Go for it. And, like, and as you get older, you're probably just, like, a little bit more cautious, and it's just a different layer.
Yeah, own where you're at. If you're in your 20s and you need to lean in and you need to hit it hard, do it. Because one day you might not want to, or you might not be able to, and you at least did. Yeah. I have no regret. Yeah. No regret with when it came to exercise or going a little crazy in the partying department when I was younger. All those things served me in my growth, and I have no regrets. I'm really happy with where I've landed in my life.
Yeah. And how about nutrition? What would you say for you, like, in your experience, how nutrition has changed as you've gotten older? From, like,
protein.
I just learned
protein is just the most important thing that a woman could give to her body, especially as we get older. I mean, always paying attention to it, but, like, your ability to retain and use protein changes as you get older. Like, we literally need more protein. And if you're going to eat your carbs, don't omit carbs. Like, you need carbs, especially if you exercise, you need carbs, either before or after, somewhere around that time. Yeah. But if you're trying to watch your carb loading and you're able to exercise early in the day, eat your carbs earlier in the day, and then just go heavy protein towards the evening. Intermittent fasting used to work for me. It doesn't anymore. I've got about a 12-hour fast that my body naturally goes into. Sometimes maybe a 14-hour fast is just a natural eating cycle for me. I used to snack at night. Now I don't. When I eat dinner, I'm done. So that made a big difference with my sleep quality and
Yeah.
but the whole like starving myself, I wasted so much muscle on not eating, just being lazy or being too
Yeah.
busy. I wasn't starving myself on purpose,
But just 'cause
but I
you
wasn't
get,
eating. It
yeah.
wasn't a priority for me
Yeah.
and my self care. And I now look at my body and I'm like, I lost so much muscle mass
Yeah.
because I wasn't feeding my body.
Yeah.
And that
mean,
and that
even-
I could have done something about.
Yeah. But even like weight loss has a lot to do, which was so weird because that's what I have been learning is that weight loss actually, or I don't want to say weight loss necessarily, but curbing your appetite or anything like that, protein is huge in that. And then it also gives you like, it gives you so much more energy. It gives you, I mean, things that I never learned, I never even knew before.
Well,
that I'm
I don't know about
learning.
you, but most women I know are not big protein lovers.
No,
Like, I don't think
yeah.
it's an innate cue
No.
for women.
Go out with all women, they're like a salad. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and
like
I don't
sitting
know,
over
is
here,
that-
like, with like my
yeah.
big old like, you know, chicken breast
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, is that culture? Is that, women growing up in this diet, cabbage
Totally.
soup type of upbringing? Or is that just something that women aren't naturally have as many cues towards protein because we don't need as much when we're younger? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I know it's important now.
That's interesting though, because that does really touch on the cultural piece, especially for, I would say American women specifically. So yeah, that's a really interesting, another thing we'll have to talk about someday again. Okay, so this is like actually my favorite part that I really want to talk about because this kind of leans into at least where I'm at, and I know lots of other women are, is pelvic floor health. But you were specifically talking about like stability and movement and mindfulness connection. We kind of touched on that, and how important like the core is. And I really wanted to talk about the pelvic floor because that was the one thing that we talked about that I was like, oh yeah. Because I have friends that are like, I can't jump up and down anymore.
Well, remember, the pelvic floor is literally muscle tissue. So if we're losing muscle mass, we're losing muscle tissue, we're losing it in our pelvic floor as well. So regardless of birthing, regardless of pregnancy, regardless of anything, as an aging woman, as you're getting older, your pelvic floor is a muscle that tends to weaken. I know, I'm sure yoga, I'm not a yogi, but I know that I'm sure yoga plays a part in it where it could be easily implemented into the focus during the practice. And that takes just knowing on you, like when is a good time to engage it.
Right.
But the delicate balance of making sure that it's just like if you walked around and you were just in bicep contraction all the time, I mean, that wouldn't be good for you, right?
Right,
So to
yeah.
have an overly tight or overly an overactive pelvic floor isn't healthy either, So I mean, knowing that when to contract and when to release, and I mean, I don't personally have problems anymore. I mean, I used to not be able to jump on a trampoline with my kids, and I just went to the bathroom and I would jump on the trampoline, one bounce, and I'm like,
Yeah.
already, like it was
Yeah.
so frustrating, right?
Yeah, it's
so I mean,
really interesting because even like at CrossFit, like if everybody knows that they're going to do like jump ropes, you'll see most of the women go to the bathroom.
Absolutely. And
It's like
even
the first
then,
thing.
and
And even then, they still.
yeah, and what I learned from my mother, who's in her early 70s, is that she would go to the bathroom and she wouldn't completely evacuate. Well, she's never paid attention to pelvic floor, contraction, release, none of that. So I mean, she'd had no idea that she still had more stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, your urinary tract is so important.
Yeah.
And if the pelvic floor is the last line of defense to support it before the inside world meets the outside world, worth putting some effort into
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, I have
And
a
it's
friend.
really good for your sex life.
That's what I've heard. I have a friend, I'm not going to tell her name, and she was telling me this story about how she's having the same issue, that she is struggling with, her urination but she gets really scared. Like she gets scared that she's gonna like pee her pants. And so even if she's the smallest bit of urine, she's just like, I gotta go right now. And she said that she's been getting like therapy, like physical therapy.
Yeah.
And she was like, so the doctor or the physical therapist was like, do you know what your Kegel is? Do you know how to engage it? She's like, yeah, I think so. And they literally went in the bathroom with her.
Yeah.
And like
tighten around
my finger.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
She's telling the story.
There's
and I was
machines that can go in and can check the tension that they put on. Absolutely.
And she's like, okay. She's like, so tighten your Kegel. She's like, and she's
I'm sitting here doing the Kegels right now.
I know you do. She's like, she didn't even sign a waiver. Like, it's okay for, you to do this. And she's like, all right. So she's like, engage your Kegel. So she goes to engage her Kegel. The doctor's like, that's your butthole. And she's like, really? Like this whole entire time. But even knowing what part of our body, like becoming familiar with our bodies. And I'm like, I don't think that most women are very familiar with their bodies. They just aren't. And that's another taboo topic.
So girls, you have your homework.
Yeah.
Everyone's got fingers.
Exactly.
Practice.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's just like those kinds of things that like you just don't even think about. And I'm like, okay, am I actually engaging my Kegel? Like what's going on here,
I can tell you my grandma knew nothing about a pelvic floor.
Oh.
No doctor was telling
No
her.
way.
He said go buy poise and live with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly. Like my great grandma, my grandma, they all
we're like trailblazers right now. We're like on the frontier of things that people have never looked at before.
Yeah.
Like I'm super excited that we're in this place right now as women where we get to advocate for other women and give permission to other women to say, but I want to understand this.
Yeah.
You have a right to.
Yes. And it's even just goes more to what we were talking about, mind-body connection. I mean, that is like, if there's anything that anybody takes from this, I hope that they take that. The mind-body connection is one of the greatest gifts that we have, that we have available to us and accessible to us if we're willing to seek it out. And I know it, like, some people think that sounds like woo-woo, but it's like how we were created.
Yep.
There's
We're
no
not
mistake.
just a physical being. We're
No.
definitely not just that.
No.
And you get better at it. So
full
disclosure to anyone who thinks this is woo-woo and is scared to start because they're like, I don't know what they're even talking about.
Right.
Well, you eventually get better at knowing what someone's talking about through practice, through commitment. If it's important to you, you'll put the time in. No one's just going to hand you your own body and mind's understanding. You have to work for it. Anything worth having is worth the effort you put into it.
Totally. 100%. So, yeah. So many more things we could talk about, especially specifically to that. And so I hope that you'll come back because I'd love to do like some Q&As, like maybe like if people have questions that they want to ask. We're not doctors or anything. We're not really like anything other than wellness. Curious. And we're also wellness teachers. So we do have some level of knowledge, but we're also still learning and still students as well. So I appreciate just your vulnerability and to be able to sit and talk about these things that really I don't think a lot of people are sitting and talking, and the willingness to share them and then to continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
To not like just have it be, just this and that's it. So
No, let's not.
But I really want to, we're going to wrap up this time right now. And I wanted just to see what are you doing? Because I know you're doing some things. And what are your passion projects? What has really been the thing that's been tugging on your heart and the actions you've taken in pursuing your purpose?
Well, education, knowledge, learning. Like I'm a big fan of podcasts, getting information out there. I mean, I've got a long list of new discoveries of people, especially in the area of perimenopause and menopause. So right now, my personal business is simply Pilates. So I do mobile instruction. I teach at Empower Yoga. I love my job. I